Yo, New York, are you in the house? Brooklyn, are you in the house? What's up? How you doing, people? Clean up nice, don't I? Anyways, I'm out here in the Big Apple on the roof. Take a look. Take a look. Enjoy the sounds of the city. You know why? It's because a good friend of mine once told me, every book you read, you gotta pick a good place to read it. By that token, I pick a good place to film it, film my talk on it. So it's with great pleasure that I sit out here, looking at the Big Apple, in the city of illusions. Nice eyes, right? And before I get into this, let me just say that Ursula K is a groundbreaking author. She changed my perspective on what a good book could be with this one, The Left Hand of Darkness. And what I like about her is that she's not conventional science fiction, right? When you think science fiction, you think like robots and the future and technology, but Ursula K hits a little closer to home. And I like that in her. I like that I can relate, and I can kind of put myself in the character's shoes, but still get some kind of message about society, and about the kinds of science fiction that could exist in this world. So, in the City of Illusions, this is close to home. So this is situated on Earth with a civilization of man called the Terrans, which comes from the Latin word of terra, Earth. And you start off as this guy. I'm saying this like a game. You follow the footsteps of a guy who doesn't know anything about his past. He just wakes up, doesn't know how to walk, how to talk, anything. And some group of Terrans find him and culture him to this new planet. But what he finds out is that he has the same kind of physical attributes as the people who are in control of this world, the people who rule with fear and with lies, the Shing. See the yellow eyes? That's kind of a trademark of the Shing. And that's what people characterize him as, but they don't actually know much about the Shing. They're kind of like the people who are controlling the puppets. You don't see them. And so he, someone who has no memory of his former self before having his memory erased, thinks he might very well be one of them. So he goes on a series of journeys through all these kinds of humanity, like all these different tribes, these different cultures. There's one with like bee people with lasers on their arms. I know I said it's supposed to be more realistic, but yeah, there's room to stretch the truth. Hunter-gatherers and some like king who like plays games, like he treats his people as like part of a giant game. They all acculture Falk, the main character, on his quest for identity. And by the time he gets to the city, that's when something groundbreaking happens, and he finds out more about the self before the self. And I don't want to give away too much, but he has to make a very important decision. And not everything is what it seems. And that's the beauty of Le Guin, is that she makes you question what is real and what seems real. And when do the two cross? And when does the line become hazy? Who is Falk? Who are the people around him? Who are the Shing? What is this Earth? There are so many questions that arise out of this book, and it's awesome. It really turns you on your head. Even though it tells you more as you go along, not everything is clear, especially when you start off. And I have a friend who's reading The Left Hand of Darkness. She read it twice, and she told me like she still doesn't get it. And what I would tell her is that, you know, if you get anything, if you feel like you understand something after reading it, then you are doing what you are supposed to do when reading science fiction, especially Le Guin, because you aren't going to get everything. And I think that's the beauty, is that you can kind of get it more and more the more you get at it. there are some central questions as to truth, and reality. Perceived reality and actual reality. And even though it is confusing, oh my God, what is all these trucks? It's killing me. Even though it is confusing, it's worth sitting through and getting through the hard parts. Because a lot of it is like description, but it also lends itself to deeper knowledge. So I do want to point out two things. One is page 1. I just want to read some of it. Imagine darkness. In the darkness that faces outward from the sun, a mute spirit woke. Wholly involved in chaos, he knew no pattern, he had no language, and did not know the darkness to be night. As unremembered light brightened about him, he moved, crawling, running sometimes on all fours, sometimes pulling himself erect, but not going anywhere. He had no way through the world in which he was, for a way implies a beginning and an end. All things about him were tangled, all things resisted him. So the beauty here is the double standard. All things were tangled, all things resisted him. He had no way through the world in which he was, for a way implies a beginning and an end. So it's almost like he has to make a way, but he doesn't know how to make that way. And there's some really beautiful plays on language in this book. And one of the quotes that stood with me after reading is, "Not every illusion is a lie." That's deep. What will you choose to believe? But anyways, I hope I got you interested. That was my book talk 1. Got nice and clean shaven for it, as I promised. And here's to many great book talks to come in the City of Illusions.